Hey everybody, this is Martin John, and we are here to talk about the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written about 600 BCE, and it existed well before that. It was conversed. I'm just assuming all of these things. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if time is real. So, but it is a subject of the nature of the universe. It is how things exist. And if we observe the universe, if we observe animals in nature, if we observe the wind and we observe the trees and we observe everything, we see that everything out there just kind of accepts what is. If it doesn't submit to everything, but it accepts others as they are. If you plant two trees next to each other, they might intertwine and become one tree, because of their proximity to one another. If you go to a forest and cut down a tree, the tree falls. It might hit you, I suppose, but it's going to fall because you cut it down. And it's not going to punish you for cutting it down. And it's like, okay, because you're part of nature too. And society is part of nature. The society that we live in is part of nature. It has pushed us to a point where I think we need to once again refocus on nature, because we are animals. We are not special in any way. I mean, there's been a lot of speculation about why people are special and why we need to do things and why other things, like other animals have gone extinct, and I'm sure we will at some point too. We're not special. We're not, I know God and all of that. It's that God made us, special, but he made everything special. Why is it that we take the head of the line on that? Because we have language. I don't understand why we're assuming everything else doesn't have language. I mean, just because squirrels don't communicate in the same way we do doesn't mean they don't have language, right? So we look to nature. We look to nature and we try and emulate it. And if I can cut a tree down without adverse effects, then am I okay with a tree cutting me down? Like, am I going to curse a tree because I hit my head on its branch? It's got a right to hit me in the head sometimes. That's okay, I can say, yeah, maybe he's having a bad day. And it's good. It's good to think about things from that, just that perspective of everything's got a right to do what they want to do. And I can surrender to your right to do what you want and not have to submit to you doing that to me. So if I keep hitting my head on your branch, or if you keep hitting me in the head with your branch, maybe I want to cut that branch down. I was like, or I can accept that, I can accept your space, and maybe I make a path around it. That's one of the great things about Tao, is that you can do what you want. Now, you also have to allow others to do what they want. And, I was in a meeting this weekend and someone said, there are crimes against humanity and people will be held accountable. And I was like, oh, I mean, I get it. I get the whole rigmarole of measuring and saying, yes, there are crimes against humanity. And yes, people are in situations that they can't or don't have a way out of. Things that are going on in the world right now are horrific. and things that are going on. Like, people aren't being given the opportunity to be sovereign, to make choices, to not. They aren't being given a choice to not submit. They are being forced to even submit and die. And those deaths, like, my heart goes out to all of those that are resistant and are finding life difficult, because it's happening. It's happening all over the world. And so much of that is in resistance to the world and to living a natural life, living a life that is more reasonable. And that's what we talk about here, right? We talk about the idea that we want to live a reasonable life. We want to allow people the space to do what they want. But we want to also make sure that we have good boundaries and that we're not being coaxed into putting ourselves last. We have to make sure that we're not slipping into comfort. Because when we slip into comfort, we may give up ourselves. I remember I was talking to someone who had depression and what have you. And I had to tell her about, like, this balance of comfort. Eventually, even something that you deem comfortable, like laying in bed, right? Some of you might be laying in bed right now. Nothing wrong with that. But if you're laying in bed, and if you lay in bed to escape your life, right? This woman was training to be a doctor, and her mom was very overbearing, right? Her mom was really did a lot of living for her. She didn't do the living. So this woman that I met was depressed. She was going to school to be a doctor. I don't know if she wanted to be a doctor. She wouldn't really delve that deep with me, but her mom was very overbearing, and this woman was staying at a friend of mine's house, and I was taking care of the house for a couple of days, and she really enjoyed cooking, and she really enjoyed community, and she really enjoyed connecting. But I don't feel like the doctor thing was really giving her, love for her life. And she would spend large, like, over 10, 12 hours in bed, not sleeping, like just in bed, like in her room. And she would be depressed and she'd be sad. And this is what we talk about when we talk about, like, the easy way. It's probably easy. It probably seems easy to just do what her mom says. Just go to school to be a doctor, and go do all these things, and go be what is expected of you. Go and do what is expected of you. It probably seems easier than telling your mom no. Telling your mom that you want to be a cook. Telling your mom that you want to work in a restaurant. Especially when you're on path to be a doctor. Because those two things have different rankings in our society, right? If you're a doctor or if you're a cook. Now, if you're a celebrity chef, that's one thing. But if you're just a cook versus a doctor, oh, you're a doctor. Oh, you deal with children. Oh, you're a doctor. It doesn't matter what kind of doctor. If I just say, no, you're a doctor and you're a cook, you're going to judge one person over the other because of our society. It's just how we're going to do it. And her culture would definitely be judging the doctor higher than the cook. So she was following her mom. So she's under the influence of her mom, and she's in bed. And I talked to her one day, and I was talking about that masculine and feminine, and I was talking about balance, and I was talking about the idea that, like, eventually laying in bed is painful. But because we define it as comforting, because its identity, the identity of laying in bed, the act of laying in bed seems almost universally, oh, that's comforting. That's comfortable. I'm so glad I get to go to bed. But after you spend weeks in bed, you get bed sores. It's painful. I don't care what it is. That which is easy will eventually be hard. That which is hard will eventually be easy. That which is soft will eventually be hard. I mean, a different kind of hard, I guess. Laying in bed is comfortable until it's not. And if you take those shortcuts in life to just get given answers, if you take those shortcuts in life to not feel the discomfort of what you're doing is going to be uncomfortable eventually. Because Tao is trying to get you to move. It's trying to get you to act. It's trying to get you to be you. And if you're under the influence of something, and I've met many people who opt to just be under the influence of their parents because it's easier, because they're going to support them, and they already have, like, my parents already have a voice, so I don't need one, And that's what we end up in these spaces in our lives where we have just over time given up the struggle of living our lives, and we've given it to someone else. Maybe we've given it to our school. Maybe we've given it or our schooling. Maybe we've given it to our work. Maybe we've given it to our relationship. Maybe we've given up in one area or another, like our autonomy, our ability to be us in this moment as we are without the label. Once we attach ourselves to a label, like I'm educated. Okay, well, if you're educated, what are things educated people don't do? Do you have an idea about what that is? There's like, oh, well, educated people don't do A, B, C, whatever. And it's like, so do you do those things? You're like, no, of course not, because I'm educated. And it's like, oh, okay. So that label has turned those specific things into things that you don't do. And now you, because you have the label of being educated, don't do these things. So you've closed off part of the world to yourself. Yeah, but I don't want to do that. But what if you will want to do that someday? Right? What if? I mean, I don't know what it is. Like for me, I can say, because I'm recovering alcoholic and recovering drug abuser, like I can say, okay, well, I'm not going to use cocaine ever again. Or I'm not going to drink alcohol ever again. Yes. Okay. Maybe I've closed that off to myself. But over the last 10 years or whatever, because I got 23 years, I have realized that they are still options. It is an option. Alcohol is an option for me. It's not one that I currently want to engage in, but I have to make sure that that door stays open. I want the door to stay open and not walk through it. I don't want it to stay open so I can walk through it, but I want to choose to not. I want to be able to, and I want my sobriety to be so strong that I can have it open. I'm not saying I'm going to keep vodka in the house, in the freezer, ready to drink, if I just in case I'm not stupid, right? I'm not going to coax myself into doing something stupid, but I'm going to make sure that I know that, well, it is possible. I mean, alcohol exists in the world and I can engage it. No one's stopping me. And my identity of being sober doesn't stop me either. And I don't want it to. I don't want that to stop me. I want my life to be so rich and so beautiful that I recognize and I know the ramifications or the fallout from drinking. And I'm not afraid of it because I take tinctures that are made of alcohol. I'm actually going to buy vodka to make my own tinctures. So I'm not afraid of it. But I'm also not going to put myself in a position that's going to threaten me. That's going to be stronger than I am. And that's where, living under the influence of our parents comes in, right? This woman that I was talking about who spent all this time in bed, and the thing that she went to comfort herself became uncomfortable. The thing that she was doing to pacify her life became a burden. Now she has multiple problems, right? First problem, under the influence of her mom, not able to speak up against her mom. Her life is so untenable because of the control that her mom has on her life. She begins to pacify, but staying in bed. Now her staying in bed has been so robust, let's say, it started to be painful. Now she has physical problems because she's not exercising, she's not motivated, she's not doing anything. Maybe she's not doing as good in her classes because she's not motivated, because she's depressed. Now she's depressed, and this is how avoiding the easy, right? Like, I'm going to move to that. Avoiding. Avoided by men. It's so easy, right? Avoiding the easy has created all difficult problems. This is what I'm talking about today. This is number 64. Avoiding the easy has caused all difficult problems. Think about that. All this woman had to do was stand up to her mom. Is that quote unquote easy? Well, compared to where she's going, it could have been, just like me. I'm going to talk about me and my addiction and my path to all that. As I was young, not good in school. Everybody said, well, you have to be good in school. I was like, well, I'm not. Well, then you're in trouble. Okay, you're in trouble. You have to go to summer school. You have to try harder than everybody else. You have to spend more time than everybody else. And it just wasn't working for me. I can spend all the time in the world. It just never came. And, but I was forced to be in a world where school had to be a thing that you did well. You had to do well at school, or you're going to have this horrible future and all of this stuff. Well, I didn't do well in school, so I didn't want to go to school, and so I rebelled, right? I rebelled against all of it, and I didn't try and find what was good for me. I just worked against the system. The easy thing would have been to try and find what was good for me. I'm going to bring Mark up. We're going to have a little conversation about Mark. Early by you. Glad you're up to join me. Welcome. You with me? Mark Thurston? I don't hear you. Maybe. Yep. There's a little something.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you.
Are you just getting up there?
You mean in the morning? Is that what you're saying?
I did, yeah.
Yes. It's one of those days where I woke up and I wasn't going to do anything on my phone. And I wasn't thinking about the Tao at all. I usually do if I wake up early, but I wasn't. And then I'm like, wait a second. I have a notification on my phone, of course. So like, oh, that's a good idea. I should listen.
Yeah.
And then you said what you said a minute ago. And it just, I don't like to come on here too much because I don't want to dominate any conversation. But you said something that was so profound to me because I hadn't heard it. Tao 64, avoiding the easy creates all difficult problems. So I thought I'd share something with you and whoever's listening. And it's something I came up with that's related to that. That's why I think it's interesting. Everyone knows the phrase, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the opposite of Tao 64. That's why the Tao is so cool, because it's paradoxical, but it's like more true. You know what I mean? It's like more true than these truisms, like the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Because what that says is work harder, be moral, make good choices. You know, it's this dualistic notion, which is kind of the opposite of the Tao. So I thought I was real clever. Several years ago, I came up with another one, and it was just as bad as the first one now that I've heard Tao 64. And what mine was, instead of saying the road to hell is paved with good intentions, you can say something that I've wrestled with and people that have addiction have wrestled with, and that is the road to hell is the path of least resistance, which is the opposite of what you just said in the Tao. But you get the allure of the road to hell is the path of least resistance. The path of least resistance when you open your refrigerator and you grab a beer. You know what I mean? Or have some vodka or whatever. So thinking the way I've been thinking, this kind of Puritan, white knuckle your addiction stuff is really counter to what the Tao is trying to share. You know what I mean?
Well, definitely, yeah. Right. And if you're following the Tao, you probably wouldn't get to the point of being addicted, just because of things like that. But I wrote something the other day, which was what the Tao does so well is it reasonably helps you live a more reasonable life. Like as you are, it is not expecting you to flip your life upside down. It's just an invitation to iterate. It's an invitation to adjust at this moment. And I want to go back to the road to hell with you just for a moment, because the road to hell is paved with good intentions, meaning that the road to hell, like you are going to create problems as you have intentions that are good, right? So a good intention is something that you go out of your way to do. It is not the easy thing. And so it's actually saying the exact same thing, that avoiding the easy is what has created all difficult problems. So avoiding the easy thing is to not have an intention. The easy thing is to not try and help somebody. That's the easy thing. It's more difficult to attempt to help somebody than it is to just go about your business. So the road to hell being paved with good intentions is saying the exact same thing as avoiding the easy is what has created all difficult problems, because the difficult problems came because you avoided the easy thing and had an intention to do something else. You had an intention of your action. So your intention was, there's more effort when you have intention than just doing the easy thing. If you do the easy thing, you're not doing anything. You're just acting. You're just being.
And that gets me to this thing that I've thought about quite a bit, this Wu Wei thing, right? To me, it's like the Tao has got a bunch of great stuff in it. But if you can't think about the Tao because it's tricky, right? Like you've spent your life thinking about it, just think about Wu Wei. Ignore the Tao for a second and just think of the notion of effortless action, right? Which is this whole thing of the 64, you know?
Right.
The easy way is Wu Wei. We just don't know it.
Right. And, I haven't even read all of 64. So let's go ahead and read this all together, and then we'll have a conversation. So it is easy to stop something before it is set into motion. It is easy to plan something before beginning it. It is easy to break something before it has grown strong. It is easy to hide something before it has grown big. Preventing problems has never been the problem. Tiny sprouts do this and grow to unimaginable heights, and every journey has started with the first easy step. Avoiding the easy is what has created all difficult problems. Rushing past the easy thing will end up costing you. Grasping onto the destination, you lose sight of where you are. Forcing things to be what you want when you want will only turn those things against you. Therefore, the master monitors her desire for an outcome. She remains as calm at the beginning as at the end, so she can see what's in front of her. She embraces the mundane and doesn't prize rarity. Doing this, the master reminds those around her of who they have always been, and they are inspired. Caring about nothing but Tao, she cares for all things.
So, Martin John, I don't know, I'm sure you said this, and I've listened in a few times now, but what are you reading? What is this stuff?
What do you mean? Like whose translation?
Yes.
It's mine.
So I've ordered your book, and I have it, but it's just these little teeny things. It's just like a few lines, and you just seem to read more than, or maybe I'm wrong.
Did you not turn the page?
Okay, so I think I'm just wrong. Sorry, because I've read it, and it seems like they're shorter than what you just read. But if I grabbed your book, it's right next to me here. I could read exactly what you just said.
You can read exactly what I just said.
Oh, that just gives me chills. Oh my gosh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, they're just short text. My guess is I'm going to open up my book right now because I have it digitally in front of me so I can shift through it. My guess is this one is 2 pages. Yeah, this one is 2 full pages.
Okay, I got you. I understand. Sorry about that. I just didn't. I should have known this, but I didn't. And I haven't looked at your book too much. I've spent like 15 minutes on it so far. So.
No, it's fine. Yeah, so if you open to 64, you can read all of that. It's right there. Yeah, it's all there.
So I switching gears just for a second. I think this might help your listeners too. Is I think I told you I talking to you before on here, and I think I said I wanted to order your book, or I was intrigued or whatever, and I signed up for your seminar. But I found a book that I've had for probably, 20 years, maybe 15 years, that I haven't really, I looked at again for like 15 minutes, and it's a different translation. You may know about it. I can't remember now the guy's name, but it was in the 50s. The guy's famous for a bunch of translations, but one of them is The Tao, and it was a popular book because I think my wife got it in college in a class. I haven't talked to her about it because I don't know if that's what happened, but I believe that's where I got it. It's a used book from a used bookstore. Anyway, it's, like I said, it's a translation from 59, and 2/3 of the book are a big write-up. And then a third of it is the Tao, his translation. But it's pretty different from yours. So like if I read 64 on his, it's hard for me to get, it's not really hard because I see it's the same thing, but it's a different take, and it communicates like a different information. And frankly, and I'm not saying this to stroke you at all, it's just a fact. Yours is easier to understand. It's like, okay, I understand what this means. Even though they're both paradoxical and tricky, his seems a little bit more layered, and it's like, well, that's a lot of stuff. And yours seems a little bit more purified or something.
And there's, like all of these are written different times. So it's really hard. I think it's really hard to, if, like I'll open up Stephen Mitchell's, and we'll read 64 from Stephen Mitchell. And that, and that can give us an idea of like how different they can be, or how similar they can. You said this was written in the 50s?
Yeah, I list. It's not easily. It's in a different place in my house. I can't get it.
Yeah. No, I'm looking at translations of the Tao right now. So there's Baum in 58. There's Blakeney in 55. There's Yu Tang in 48. So let's look at Yu Tang, because I think Yu Tang was able to read the exact text. So let's go to 64 in Yu Tang. So my title is It's So Easy, and his title is Beginning and End. What he writes is
sorry. I think it's Arthur Wally, and I guess it's 1934. I think that's who it is. Arthur Wally, maybe.
Okay, Arthur Wally, 1934. Yep. Got it. Okay, let's look at it. Let's just look at it. What stays still is easy to hold. Before there has been an omen, it is easy to lay plans. Okay. So, before there has been an omen, it is easy to lay plans. What I say, it is easy to plan something before beginning it. So an omen is, I could just assume for his translation, an omen is, something is going to happen, right? When you see an omen, that means something is set into motion, right? Like if I was like, is that an omen? I saw something. Is that an omen? It's like something is set into motion, right? So my text says it's easy to plan something before beginning it. And he says, before there has been an omen, is easy to lay plans. Same thing.
So I got to say something I think you'll appreciate. Last time we talked, I excitedly described this idea I had like 30 years ago that I thought was super cool and how helpful it would be. And now we have the technology to do it. It's called this idea of a universal translator. And I was telling you how excited that was. So you could pick the one word in any language that epitomized what you were trying to say. It's like a thesaurus, right? Where you look for the perfect word, but it's not a thesaurus of English. It's all languages that have ever been, right? And you pick the word that perfectly illustrates your thing. And you corrected me and said, well, that might be nice, but what you'd have to do is not just have the perfect word, but you'd have to change people's perception of stuff, right? So get them on the same page first. And it's like, what's way more important than the perfect word? It's the misperception. Anyway, getting to your point though, to me, this epitomizes, there's a difference between an omen and beginning it, right? An omen has a whole other import thing. Now it's very similar, of course, but omens are different than just beginning. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but if I were to take my experience of how the word omen would be used,
sure.
If I were to say, is it something happens and it for me, how it's like an omen is just telling me something has been set into motion. So that's an omen, right? That is telling me something has been set into motion, like energetically or spiritually or whatever. And I don't know what he means by omen. But if I were to look at that, that's what I would say. And when I read the two translations, I can see a similarity. And that's why it's important for us to be able to look at different translations.
Yes.
And be like, this resonates with me more. The fact that mine was written this year, published this year, is probably means that people that are alive today might relate to my translation a little bit better than they're going to relate to the language that was written in 1934. Oh, you dropped out. So if you wanted to come back up, you can. I'm gonna go ahead and continue to read both of these 64s, and we can compare a couple things. Is what it continues to say? What is tender is easily torn, and I say it is easy to break something before it has grown strong. Then it is what is minute is easy to scatter. It is easy to hide something before it has grown big. So, and then the next section says, deal with things in their state of not yet being. So that's nice, right? Deal with things in their state of not yet being. That's almost like take care of things and this is like the Wu Wei, like you're inspired to do something before something is set into motion. Put them in order before they have gotten into confusion. For the big tree as the tree big as a man embrace, as a man's embrace, the tree big as a man's embrace began as a tiny sprout. The tower 9 stories high began as a heap of earth. The journey of 1,000 leagues began with what was under the feet. And again, and I do think it's probably easier because we read mine first. Right? Because mine, again, it is in the language that we use. And so it was easy to grasp. And now we can go back to 64. And I've been talking over the last couple days about riddles and about how the Tao is kind of in riddles. And it lets us ponder, just like that term omen. It's like, well, we gotta decipher this a little bit. And that's what really that turns me on for the Tao quite a bit. It's like it's so nice to decipher things. It's so nice and it's a reward for sitting with the text. You know, it's like, oh yeah, I get what he means by omen now. If I can calm the nervousness about not understanding or whatever, and just open myself up to, knowing, or just being led by the text.
Yeah, I love that. I think everybody finds that helpful. And the thing about the omen, I think it goes pretty deep versus beginning, right? So, and it kind of goes to the Tao generally. And that is, we can wake up in the morning and have an intention, right? And let's say the intention is let's say you have a new friend who's an addict, right? And you, maybe you're not so Tao oriented, and you decide you're going to double down on your efforts to help this person because you really like them and they have these big intractable problems and stuff. One could say you were driving to work or commuting into work and you saw a billboard that said, I don't know, something that triggered you. And it was something about the person's name and some sunny day or something. And you took it as an omen, right?
Yeah.
So you're commuting into work and you're like, well, there's the omen, right? So one might ask you, well, why are you so motivated to help this person over some other person that you could help? And you could say, it'd be silly, but you could say, well, I had an omen. It's an omen, right? I drove by this sign or I went by the sign. It had his name on it on a sunny day and it was a message for me to double my efforts. So anyway, my point is we perceive things as omens. Omens aren't omens. They're only omens because they trigger something in our head, right? There's no omen.
Well, that's what this is saying. So yes. This is why it's saying before there has been an omen, it is easy to lay plans. So let's say you wake up and you're like, I am not going to help this sumbitch because he's an addict, whatever. Yes. And then you go to work and you see this omen. You already made plans to not help this sumbitch.
Yes.
So that's what it's saying. It's saying, don't let the omen control your life. It is easy to lay plans before an omen. Pay attention to the conversation that's happening within you so that the omen doesn't control you.
It's so great. And it's the whole thing. To me, it's even now we can go beyond the Tao, or not beyond, like we go into modern era, and everybody loves this quote. It's like, you know, what does God love? God loves you making plans because he laughs, right? So it's kind of this Western cynicism, not cynicism, but it's kind of Taoist. You know what I mean? I love that whole thing of like, God loves you making plans to Tao 64. You know what I mean?
Right. And it is, you know, the thing about this is it's always saying even though you don't have proof that you have information about a topic, you can act upon that topic. So in the Wally translation, it says, you know, organize things before they arrive. Before you know what you're organizing, organize it. And in mine, it says, break something before it grows strong. And it says, plan something before beginning it. It says, you know, stop something before it is set into motion. How can I stop something before it's set into motion? And that's awareness. That's what awareness gets you. Because, you know, as someone who's struggled with addiction, I know that if my mind starts to think about drinking, or if my mind starts to flirt with something, I have to be aware of it. And it doesn't even start before, like, I'm aware of it well before it even starts. I'm aware of the things that start me down a path that in 2 or 3 days I could possibly have cravings or whatever. You know, it's like, if I don't sleep, I know that in 2 days I'm not going to be thinking clearly, because I have awareness of my body and I have awareness of what I'm doing. And so I have to make sure that in 2 days I'm well fed and that I have enough space in my life so that I'm not stressing out, because I have awareness. Now, I don't know 100% if that's going to happen, but I do want to set myself up to do the best I can. And it's like, I don't have to know, because I can trust my awareness. I'm going to trust the awareness in my body. Just like with your story of like, I'm going to double down my efforts. It's like, well, first I have a feeling of like, oh, I don't feel good around this person or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, but my religion maybe tells me I should do more. My cultural upbringing tells me I should do more, but I know that, like, deep down, I know that I don't really want to do that. So that's making plans. Making plans is like, I know the easy thing for me is to not help this person, or to support this person but not put myself at risk. But the etiquette around it, this isn't the easy thing. This is what I'm expected to do. I'm expected to double my efforts. And then I have an omen. Then I start moving in this direction. That's not the easy thing. The easy thing is to trust yourself and to say, you know what? I don't want to help. Or I don't want to put myself at risk, or I don't want it, however it pans out.
So I was going to share something that you'll like, I think, because I just found it a couple of days ago. John Madden, you know, most famous coach and announcer out there. There was an old clip, and I was looking for a different clip of his. And so I'm looking and looking and looking. I'm looking on AI. I'm looking on YouTube. I can't find it. And I just saw it like a month ago. And it was about the Raiders. I was a big football fan, still a decent football fan, but I was a huge football fan when I was a kid. And I hated the Raiders because of kind of this thing of the Tao. They cheated, from my mind. They played dirty, right? So I couldn't stand them because they wouldn't follow the rules. So they were my least favorite team. Now they're one of my favorite teams, partly because of that. So anyway, there's this clip that he's talking about how they have this terrible reputation. The Raiders do. He's the head coach. And he's talking about how they have this terrible reputation. And basically he gets down to it and he's like, okay, so we play dirty. So you've got this problems with it. What are you going to do about it? Right? So what he's saying is kind of profound because it's like, look, the refs are on the field, right? We're subject to every rule just like everybody else is. So you can say that we play dirty, but the rules are the rules. So, you're calling out this falseness of this rule thing. It's also kind of rude because they did play dirty, but you get the point. Anyway, that's not the story. The story is related to this today. And he said something, I'd never heard this quote, and I know a decent amount about John Madden. I'd never heard this quote before. He said, I used to say this thing, and I don't know what it meant. I don't know what it means, but it really got guys excited on the team when I said it. And it really got people excited. So I'd say it all the time. And I don't know why, but it got people excited, so I'd say it. And the quote is, don't worry if the horse is blind, load the wagon. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
I mean, in relation to Dow 64 isn't it great? Mm-hmm. Don't worry if the horse is blind, load the wagon. Think about it for a minute and then think about it in relation to what we're talking about with Dow 64. To me, it's the same thing, right? It's like, wait. I'm not going to try really hard because we might lose, or I'm not going to study my plays because, they're too complex. And it's like, don't come up with excuses not to do something. Just do it and have faith that, the work is intrinsic, right? That just go through the process that we know is the process, right? Do the work and don't worry about all these externalities. Don't give yourself an excuse not to do the work in a wu-wei sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I absolutely get that. Like, and it is just do what is to be done. It's like, just do this thing, whatever it is that's in front of you. Do the next most obvious thing. The next most obvious thing is load the wagon. Don't make up your excuses. Don't. And then that is also kind of labeling, like, the potential of another thing, like, of that thing that you're, and that's avoiding the easy. The easy thing is load the wagon. Right. And that's and making excuses and saying, oh, we can't do this because of this and this and this. And then, but it's time to load the wagon. So just load the wagon.
Yeah. The other thing to it, then this gets pretty deep into a lot of stuff, but I'll just touch on it and you'll understand. But the other thing about like loading the wagon, there's ego stuff, right? So it's like, well, if I put 3 units on the wagon and that guy over there who's getting paid more than me only puts 2 in, what the hell's up with that? You know what I mean? So that's another angle that just opens up this whole other discussion of ego
that's getting a little far. We're making a lot of that.
Yes.
But no, I appreciate you bringing up this other translation, and I really and again, I do think that trying different translations is and trying them on for size for each and every one of us, I think is a big deal, and I think that we can always learn a lot. I stuck to 6 different translations when I was writing mine.
6 is a lot, though.
Yeah, spanning about 150 years.
Okay.
And two of the translations, I know the people that translated it read the exact text, and they were able to read the exact text. And the other 4 were English translations that have come in over the since the late 1800s. So that's a big I'm referencing quite a bit, and then asking myself, what is this saying today? And then that's how we, there were some things.
Anyway, I'll sign off, but thanks again, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll see you on the 2nd.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So for those of you who are interested in how this translation came to be, I would, the whole point was that I wanted to get the essence, of course, of what it's saying and understand what it's saying, and put that out in text so that I can, so it can come across. Now, there are some things, like when it talks about, something specific, like it's easy to stop something before to set an emotion, like as it says here in 64, what stays still is easy to hold. Like if I were to read what stays still is easy to hold, like I can just use that line, but how do I want to express it? How do I want to, and like avoiding the easy is what has created all difficult problems. Like for me, when I'm translating it, that means something, right? There was something when I was reading this, my translation. Therefore, the master monitors her desire for an outcome. She remains as calm at the beginning as at the end. Monitors her desire for an outcome. Remember, when we were talking about that woman and her mom, her outcome, the desired outcome that she was holding on to related to pleasing her mom. That was her outcome. Her outcome wasn't loving her life. The outcome that she desired was to please her mom. Now, that's not going to be easy because your mom can be unhappy at any time. Like she can be unhappy with you just because she's, wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. That's not easy. And if you're going to give up your life to make someone else happy, you are not choosing the easy path. The master monitors a desire for an outcome. And maybe her outcome is just to enjoy your life and to be here and present and do what you do. Do the easy thing. Now, when you start pacifying with drugs, alcohol, laying in bed, food, all of these other things, well, is that the easy thing? Well, it's easy to avoid your life and feeling what you're feeling in life when you're pacifying. But pacifying isn't easy because eventually it's, we've talked about opponent process before, right? So the opponent process is your body opposes all of these things. And as it opposes, like if you're laying in bed, that's going to eventually be uncomfortable. If you're taking drugs, that's going to eventually wither you away. It might seem like it's giving you space. It might seem like it's giving you an escape. But eventually it's going to be a prison. And it always is. All pacifiers are going to end up that way, whether it's food or relationships or sex or laying in bed or drugs or alcohol or whatever. And that's the thing. All of those things are designed to be quote unquote comfortable. I don't want to say that it's comfortable because not everybody seems those things as birth, but pacifiers comfort you, right? We use comfort food or we use, all sorts of things. And when we do that, we're trying to comfort ourselves because something is difficult. But it's difficult probably because we're avoiding an easy thing. And yes, facing somebody is hard, but once you do it, it's over. Once you express yourself, and that's why Tao says, express yourself fully. And then once it's expressed, let it go. That's the easy thing. You don't have to sit here and monitor other people and how they are taking what you're expressing and what you're saying. Just express yourself fully. Be open and be honest with yourself. The easy thing now, it's unfortunate that in our society, we train children rather than raise children. So we train children to be a certain way, and then they have to untrain themselves. And I don't think that we have any. And the way we untrain ourselves today is go to coaches and we ask other people to do it for us, right? Avoiding the easy thing is what created all difficult problems. And hopefully the coaches that we end up seeing, or the people that we end up following, or the answers that we end up adopting are all answers, coaches, friends, family, or whatever, that really love us and that are really aligned with us. But many, many times it's snake oil, right? It's all just like, do this and you will feel better. I was like, what? You don't know anything about me. But everybody, this answer is for everybody. Like, no, if it's for everybody, it's for nobody. And I don't need to engage it. I'm going to go ahead and read number 64 of this Wally translation all the way through. And then I'm going to read mine. And then I'm going to sign out if nobody else has a number. So, what stays still is easy to hold. Before there has been an omen, it is easy to lay plans. What is tender is easily torn. What is minute is easy to scatter. Deal with things in their state of not yet being. Put them in order before they have got into confusion. For the tree big as a man's embrace began as a tiny sprout. The tower 9 stories high began with a heap of earth. The journey of 1,000 leagues began with what was under the feet. He who acts harms. He who grabs lets slip. Therefore the sage does not act, and so does not harm. Does not grab, and so does not let slip. Whereas the people of the world, at their tasks, constantly spoil things when within an ace of completing them. Okay, I'm going to read that again. Whereas the people of the world, at their tasks, constantly spoil things when within an ace of completing them. Okay, I can gather from that. Julie is joining me. So what that is saying is because people are constantly doing things, they're spoiling them before they get completed. Hey, Julie, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing exactly that, Martin John.
Are you spoiling things?
I keep doing it. Yeah, I do it all the time.
Good
regularly. Well, the thing is I see them as beautiful, and then I see the obscene.
Yeah, it's a yo-yo, definitely.
Yeah. What number is that? Because that is pretty awesome, and I've just joined you. So
it's 64 of the Wally translation from 1934 or something. Mark came up and he was talking about this translation. He was like, "This is very different than yours," and we started doing a side by side.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I'm just going to mark that and I'll read it later.
Yeah. Mine is like avoiding the easy. So we were talking about, I was talking about this idea of someone laying in bed, and when they lay in bed so long, it starts to be uncomfortable, but they don't recognize it's uncomfortable because they have an identity that they have an idea that laying in bed is comfortable. And so even though it's hurting my body, I can't get any more comfortable than laying in bed or taking a bath or something. So I'm just going to stay here. But it's like your body's telling you to get the fuck out of bed.
Yeah, mine does it all the time. I know that being in bed is lovely and some people really enjoy it. but I cannot stay in that bed once the task of sleeping is done. It's just how it is for me. I just can't do it.
It's so yesterday. So this is funny. Yesterday, I woke up at 12:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I thought it was 4. And I usually wake up at 4. And so I just kind of started going about my business, doing my stuff, waking myself up and doing like a little exercise and stuff. And then I look at the clock and it's like 12:45. And I'm like, oh. And I was done. I was done sleeping. So I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm up now.
That's it. That's exactly it. That's what happens to me.
Yeah.
I'm just dashing around trying to find my charger so I don't end up doing what I did yesterday.
Oh. Was it yesterday? Did you
was it the day before? It might have been the day before. The cat's in. The cat's all good. So yesterday, right, Martin, John, I just wanted to talk to you about this. I had another day of anxiety. Oh. It was weird because I could feel this anxiety, and I had a choice of things that I could create with it. This is the thing, because there's nothing for me to worry about and there's nothing for me to be anxious about. And I knew that, but I actually tried to create the reason.
Oh, so
first of all, I honed in on the cat. That was my victim. My victim. He was scratching his ear. He's got something in his ear. Oh, he's really paying attention to the ear. This is really terrible. This cat's got a bad ear. I've got to contact the owner and tell them that I'm concerned about the ear, which stupidly I did.
Oh, God.
This is
sit on your hands, Julie.
Sit on your hands, you dopey woman. But anyway, I sent a message and she said, yeah, she does sometimes do that. If you're concerned, there's bits and pieces under the sink that you can utilise, and that's fine. And so she calmed me down, which is nice. Today the cat's fine.
Of course.
So then the second one was, well, the cat's not giving me enough attention. This is just all observation really here. All right. The cat's not giving me enough attention, as in it's not feeding my anxiety enough. What else can I worry about that will satiate this anxiety? Well, my son hasn't contacted me for ages and ages, and he's been on a boat, so he's obviously dead. He's obviously lit the fire, got carbon monoxide poisoning, has been lying in the boat for several weeks now, and nobody's noticed because nobody's noticed, and nobody's got hold of him, nobody's spoken to him that I've then made inquiries about. And I can't let it go. It's feeding that anxiety really, really well. It's giving me a reason. It's giving me a reason to feel anxiety. And if you're getting the gist here, I'm starting to pick and choose what I get anxious about. Yeah. Because I seem to need to have to exercise it and give it credence, if you like. Because in my brain, I can't say that I can feel anxious for nothing. I have to consolidate it. So anyway, that was that.
Yeah, you got to define it. You have to, because it's uncomfortable to just feel that way.
Yeah. Well,
and so you add story.
Yeah. So that one wasn't enough either. The fact that my son was,
shit.
He's obviously got carbon monoxide poisoning, dead, nobody knows, and he's rotting, and all this kind of stuff's going on. My daughter's not talking to me. I've spoken to her a couple of times, but she's been busy. Here's a great one. I'm watching a film day today for us at home, she says. I'll ring you later. And she doesn't ring me later. Oh, maybe I said something that has upset her. Maybe she's upset. Maybe she needs me right now, and I'm not kind of doing my part. It's really interesting what this anxiety feeling where you need to consolidate that it has a reason to exist. This is the point. I spoke to her today, and she said, no, Mother. She said, it comes with the role of mother, this worrying thing. Don't worry about it. It's just all fine here. Yeah. Then I rang up my son's works. Do it on your hands. And I said, is he alive? That's all I want to hear. Is he alive?
Yeah.
Yes, he's gone. He's gone to London for 4 days, so he's not dead on the boat. He's not rotting.
So you have been moving around a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is I'm going to suggest we read 16 together.
Okay.
Stillness and Integration. Right. So this is all about, like, I think maybe really focusing on grounding where you are, because you're aloof as it is. and with all of your moving about and the different relations that you're having with cats and the different, like the different spaces and the relationships you're having with spaces and different parts of the countryside and England and stuff. I think grounding is something that you should probably invest in. Just invest in sitting and really meditating on the earth and in meditating on connecting with the earth and being still, because it does sound very it sounds just we'll read this and you'll know.
Yeah. Okay.
Being empty of mind is of the utmost importance and should be guarded with fervor. We have all seen states of action arise, and always beyond it returns stillness. And that's what you're missing right now. When any state of action is complete, it naturally returns to stillness. This allows integration of what arose from action, which is the natural cycle of maturation. If stillness and integration cannot be achieved, constant action will lead to anxiety and wild movements. Yielding to stillness makes one impartial, and all particular things fall away. Then, when it is time to die, one can be impartial to that as well. Now, constant action will lead to anxiety and wild movements, and your responsibility, because you're Julie and you're responsible, and you're responsible for the lives of these animals, and you're responsible for your son, and you're responsible for your relationship with your daughter.
Yeah.
Because you didn't think your daughter died. Well, she contacted you, so.
I contacted her.
Well, yeah. But she responded. She responded, so she gave you a clue. But it didn't stop you from thinking about the death of the relationship and you being in trouble. And
that's right.
So being empty of mind is of the utmost importance and should be guarded with fervor. And as your mind starts to fill up, we need to be aware enough of that to cut it off. Like what I was reading in 64, it was all like, you just stop something before beginning it. As soon as you start to notice, and because once I'm going to go back to 64. Once you start going along with it, right, it's easy to stop something before it is set into motion. Because once it's set into motion, it becomes a juggernaut. And then it's like all of a sudden, it's like it's not only the cat, it's your son, it's your daughter, it's your relationships, it's the van, it's Brad, it's like, and now it's everything. Why? Because it has already been set into motion.
Yeah, that is awesome. That is really good to think about, because it's really good to sit back from it and observe what occurred. That's where my learning is. I can see what happened quite clearly. And you're right. It was the search for something to justify the feeling of anxiety, whereas I could have just sat with the feeling and go, oh, that feels like that, but not have to find reason for it or to feed it even.
And this is where that awareness of, I don't like that, I'm putting story to this.
Yeah.
And is simply saying that, and you don't have to stop putting story to it, but you are recognizing that you don't like that you're doing it, and that it is you that's doing it. You are taking responsibility. No blame, but all responsibility.
Yeah.
I don't like that I'm doing this, but guess what? I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. It was
And then,
quite a day.
then you, as it starts, right? And as you allow that awareness in, that is a state of action, and it will naturally return to stillness if you allow it to, right?
Yeah.
And so by approaching it with this idea of like, I'm going to do it until I don't, and I don't like that I'm doing it. Well, at some point, I won't do it, right? I'm going to do it until I don't. That's that moment of stillness. And that can come when we can just add a little bit of awareness and allow ourselves to be where we are, but add the awareness of, well, do I like that I'm doing this? Is this something that I want to be doing? And we could judge ourselves, but that's the problem. If we judge ourselves, it's going to stagnate the energy for it to stop, and we're going to continue to inject energy into the motion of it moving forward, and then it's going to take more from us.
Yeah, that is right. It was an experience. The way that I see it is, yesterday I created my experience. I didn't like that I was doing it, but I was doing it anyway. Today, I am not having that experience. And that's great as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And this can remind you that, like, even though this experience arose, and this is what it says, right? Like, when any state of action is complete, it naturally returns to stillness, regardless of if you put effort on it or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, this allows integration from what arose from action. If you don't, you can fill your life with stuff today so you don't integrate what arose, and you won't mature. You won't mature beyond that. And then this will come back and you won't have any new tools to use. But if you use this time, this stillness now, to address what you did and to recognize that you don't like that you do it and all of that stuff, then you will go through the natural cycle of maturation, and you will you'll be able to deal with it next time.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I love telling you my stories. I love telling you how I am.
Well, I'm glad. I'm going to be joined by Caroline. I believe I'm going to be joined by Caroline. Caroline, how are you? Carolyn? Okay, so sometimes people join and don't know that they're joining. Don't know how to do this. They're new to the app, but I leave them on the stage for a minute or so, just in case they wanted to talk and are trying to figure out their phone and other things like that. So Caroline Drummond is with me. If she wants to talk, we can. Otherwise, I will take her off stage shortly. And if she is having problems with her mic or whatever and wants to fix that and come back on stage, that is absolutely okay. Once again, this is Tao of the Day, and you can join me to pick a number between 1 and 81. Thank you so much. At any time. So, Caroline, hopefully we will cross paths again sometime. So, yeah, that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for joining me. We were at 64 and 16. So just looked at all of those things today. I'm going to go ahead and download this for the podcast. And if you guys are interested, you can check it out on Spotify. So if you go on Spotify and you can check out Tao of the Day, you can find recordings from, this live, program. So all of them are here. Select ones are on Spotify and Apple Music or Apple Podcast or whatever it is. It's out there in the world. You can find it in my website as well. Thank you all for joining me. I'm Martin John. Mark had mentioned he's going to be going, and so maybe you'd be interested too in going to my workshop on November 2nd. You can find links to that in my profile. You can pick up a copy of my translation of the Tao on my website. And it's the only place you can find it is on my website because I don't care to sell it anywhere else. But if you want it, you can get it, and I would be happy to send it to you. So you can find links to that on my website as well. You can easily contact me through there for if you are interested in having a call, having a 30-minute call. We can talk about things. We can talk about how I might be able to help guide you to a more reasonable life. Thank you so much. This is Martin John, and until next time, keep recovering yourself.